On a typical summer afternoon, a bomb rocks downtown Oslo, Norway. The chaos that ensues forever changes this peaceful nation.
People were just running as fast as they could and screaming.
8 lay dead. But little does anyone know, the killing is far from over. Just 2 hours later, on a picturesque island, the bomber continues his merciless attack.
He went over to one of the people who was on the ground, and he shot him in the head.
Hunting down and killing 69 attending summer camp.
It was a bloody massacre.
With never-before-seen footage and harrowing eyewitness accounts, this is the story of the deadliest day in Norwegian history and the extremists behind it all. A serene Friday afternoon in downtown Oslo. It seemed like a typical summer day, but within minutes, Norway would be forever changed. At about 3:30 p.m., a massive car bomb explodes outside the office of the Norwegian Prime Minister. Eight people are killed and scores are injured. The government district is in total chaos.
To be honest, I thought it was Al-Qaeda.
The blast is so strong, it blows out windows in a half-mile radius. The once tranquil city now looks like a bombed-out war zone.
Mange drepte og store ødeleggelser på bygninger. Så det er det største jeg har vært med på.
And the terror is just beginning. About an hour and a half after the bombing, stage 2 of the attack is about to begin. The target, the tiny island of Utøya, 20 miles from Oslo, where 600 young people from Norway's ruling Labour Party are enjoying a summer retreat. Within minutes, this idyllic setting will turn into something out of a horror movie.
A colleague tell me there's a policeman coming. 4, 5, 6 people gathered around him. And then I see he pulls out his gun and shoots every single one from close range, from point blank actually.
For the next 90 minutes, the shooter systematically stalks and guns down anyone in his sights.
When the shooting got closer, we were like, it's only a question left. How would we like to die? Would we like to get shot, or would we like to drown? And that was when Matti and I was like, okay, we would rather drown.
It was a bloody massacre. He did it calm, slowly, and brutal.
Police arrived to a scene of utter carnage, with 69 dead bodies strewn across the island. And when they close in on the gunman, they're in for a shock. He isn't an Al-Qaeda operative. He's a 32-year-old Norwegian citizen named Anders Behring Breivik. As he's arrested, the whole world is clamoring to know, who is this man and why did he do it? Breivik was born in 1979, the son of a nurse and a diplomat who left the family when Anders was a baby. Except for the divorce, he had a normal middle-class upbringing. In his 20s, some say Breivik aspired to be a model. It's rumored he even had plastic surgery in the US to perfect his facial features.
We could describe and label him in a variety of ways, including, it seems to me, to be a narcissist, somebody who's paranoid, somebody who is desperately seeking attention. He's wanting to draw attention to himself.
Into his late 20s, Breivik's interests turned to politics, and at age 30, he began writing a rambling 1,500-page manifesto, which he calls the European Declaration of Independence. It's his blueprint for a ruthless terror campaign for a Muslim-free Europe.
The manifesto is set in 3 different books and basically claims that Europe has been overrun by immigration, particularly Muslim immigrants, Breivik is quite Islamophobic, xenophobic, racist. He clearly wants to reclaim, as he sees it, Europe for Christianity.
Breivik claims it is his mission to cleanse Norway and Europe of all Muslims and punish those politicians who encourage multiculturalism, specifically the Labour Party. And slowly but surely, he begins to formulate a master plan. In his manifesto, Breivik divides his mission into 4 stages. First, he creates false credentials to raise and then spend 140,000 euros on his terror operation. Then he will buy all the necessary equipment and materials over a long period of time to avoid suspicion. Nearing D-Day, he'll spend no longer than a week preparing the bomb and ammunition to minimize the risk of being caught. And finally, Breivik will put the attack into motion. Here he adds a note to self: good luck and give them hell. Between 2008 and 2011, Breivik legally purchases a Ruger Mini 14 semi-automatic rifle and a Glock 17 pistol. He also obtains a police uniform and hollow point bullets. Online, he finds the instructions he needs for building a car bomb.
To make that device, which could comprise, more than a ton of explosives, you need a lot of, first of all, you need a lot of material for that, for example, fertilizer and the additional materials, but also you need the facilities to be able to mix the explosives in the right quantities.
So, at the beginning of May 2011, 82 days before the attacks, Breivik moves into a remote farmhouse near the town of Årsta, 100 miles north of Oslo. Here, Breivik can quietly finish his manifesto, hide his cache of weapons, and build his bomb. Posing as a would-be farmer, he rouses no suspicions.
Just a regular guy. He was not nervous, just polite and normal, like Norwegians are usually.
If they only knew, the man next door was planning to slaughter dozens of people in a single afternoon. Breivik writes, "I continue to search for methods of purifying the bomb. Failure is not an option." The day before the attacks, Breivik travels to Oslo for his final recon mission. At 1:30 p.m., a cab picks him up from the train station near Årsta and takes him back home.
And when we came to the farm, I see this little van, and it was parked in the front like this. And maybe it was maybe it had a bomb in this car too, maybe, because it looks heavy, that car.
Preparations are complete. The bomb is primed. Tomorrow, the killings begin. On the morning of July 22nd, 2011, Anders Breivik is about to put his manifesto into action, bombing and shooting his way to infamy.
This is the beginning of Breivik seeing this martyrdom coming into fruition. He knows he's taking steps that are going to lead to a particular conclusion that he's thought very carefully about, that he's been planning for a long period of time.
At 10 a.m., Breivik logs onto his computer and uploads an anti-Islamic video onto YouTube. He then posts a series of bizarre self-portraits. In one, he is dressed in a Knights Templar uniform. In another, he wears Freemason regalia. And in a third, in a biological warfare suit, apparently preparing poison-tipped ammunition. Finally, one is a Norwegian gentleman, writing, "We must look our best before the shoot."
There are a number of narcissistic features. The most obvious one is the dressing up. There are lots of photographs of Breivik in uniforms, the dressing up as a mason, carrying weaponry. He also is quite narcissistic about how those photographs are taken. He tells us in the manifesto that you should hire a professional makeup artist before you have your photograph taken. He says, I know it sounds a bit gay, but have a bit of makeup on before you have your photograph taken.
Breivik then puts the finishing touches on his manifesto, signing it Andrew Berwick, the English version of his name.
In many respects, this is Breivik's way of communicating with the wider world. His manifesto is for him, to use another analogy, his Mein Kampf.
Breivik's writings are part political rant, part terrorist handbook, part autobiography. He identifies himself as a 32-year-old former bank clerk, intelligent and motivated. He claims to have been a millionaire entrepreneur in years past. In reality, he's a recluse with only a handful of friends. He's known to be a bodybuilder, steroid user, and avid gun enthusiast. He goes on to describe himself as a right-wing crusader, a senior officer of the Knights Templar, and the scourge of Islam. He emails the documents to nearly 6,000 people, whom he regards as potential followers.
And he presses send on that computer. He would have seen that as being the culmination of his research, the beginning, though, of his next stage in his campaign.
Minutes later, Breivik leaves on his deadly mission. His destination is Oslo. His objective, mass murder. After 3 years of planning, he is ready to wage war. It takes 2.5 hours to drive his bomb-laden van from his farmhouse to the capital, roughly 100 miles away. It's a typical Friday afternoon in Oslo. People out shopping, workers looking forward to the weekend. Johan Tandberg is just one of hundreds of people walking through town.
It's a small city where people usually think they're very safe. We thought this was the safest place on earth.
But that innocence is about to be shattered. Breivik parks his van outside a block of government buildings, near the offices of Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg, leader of the Norwegian Labour Party. Breivik has his detonator set to a timer and flees the area long before his homemade bomb goes off. Johan Tandberg is caught in the blast and captures this exclusive footage.
I started my camera and I saw to my left that the government building was totally destroyed. People on the street were laying around. Somewhere they lost their hearing. Blood coming out from everywhere, and people were in shock. It was terrible.
Breivik's homemade bomb, made from fertilizer and charged with fuel, has wreaked havoc on downtown Oslo.
I went from person to person to take the pulse, check if they were alive. Some were not. And yeah, what to do? I went on to the next kind of body.
8 people are killed in the deadly blast, and many more are seriously injured.
The pictures from New York 9/11 came back to me immediately, and I thought, okay, this is the terror we've been waiting for.
It's like nothing Norway has ever seen before, and it shakes this liberal and tolerant society to its core. But this is also an act of diversion.
If all your resources are being funneled towards, for example, in this case, the bomb explosion, it's a big mistake, especially in the age of Al-Qaeda terrorism, where multiple attacks are quite frequent. And so if you send all of your ambulances or your police resources to, for example, the building, you're laying yourself completely open to an attack of the sort that took place.
As Oslo reels, Anders Breivik is already moving on. He hails a cab and heads to his second target. It's one thing to set a detonator. This time, Breivik will have to look each of his victims in the eyes. Utoya is a small island in the middle of Tyrifjord Lake, 20 miles north of Oslo. For generations, Utoya has hosted an annual summer camp for the children of the Labour Party elite and other young party members. The island is just 24 acres, roughly the length of 5 football fields, and half as wide across.